Welcome back, 5th grade. I'm glad you're coming back to read the next chapter of our book, My Side of the Mountain. And this one is called A Brief Account of What I Did About the First Man Who Was After Me. Sounds a little bit like an adventure, this chapter. So it says, at the edge of the meadow I sensed all was not well at camp. How I knew there was a human being there was not clear to me then. I can only say after living so long with just the birds and the animals, the movement of human is different between the difference between an explosion of a cap pistol and a cannon. I wormed my way back to camp. When I could see the man I felt to be there, I stopped and looked. He was wearing a forester's uniform. Immediately I thought they had sent someone to bring me in, and I began to shake. Then I realized I didn't have to go back and meet the man at all. I was perfectly free and capable of settling down anywhere, and my tree was just a pleasant habitat. I circled the meadow and went over to the gorge. On the way in, I checked the trap. It was a deadfall. A figure 4 was under the big rock. The rock was down. The food that had been caught was a rabbit. I picked up a comfortable place just below the rim of the gorge where I could pop up every now and again and watch my tree. Here I dressed down the rabbit and fed Frightful some of the more savory bites from the young falcon's point of view. The liver, the heart, the brain. She ate in gulps. As I watched her swallow, I sensed a great pleasure. It's hard to explain my feelings in that moment. It seemed marvelous to see life plump through that strange little body of feathers, wordless noises, milky eyes. So much life that pumped through me. The food put the bird to sleep. I watched her eyelids close from the bottom up, her head quiver. The fuzzy little body rocked and the tail spread out to steady it, and the little duck hawk almost sighed as she sank into the leaves, sleeping. I had lots of time. I was going to wait for the man to leave. So I stared at my bird, the beautiful details of the new feathers, the fern-like lashes among the lids, the saucy bristles among the beak. Pleasant hours passed. Frightful would awaken, I would feed her, and she would fall back to sleep, and I would watch the breath rock her body ever so slightly. I was breathing the same way. Her heartbeat was so much faster than mine. She was designed to her bones for a swifter life. It finally occurred to me that I was very hungry. I stood up to see if the man was gone, and he was yawning and pacing. The sun was slanted on him now, and I could see him quite well. He was a fire warden. Of course, it has not rained, I told myself, for almost 3 weeks, and the fire planes had been circling in the mountains and the valleys and patrolling the mountains. Apparently, the smoke from my fire had been spotted, and the man was sent to check it out. I recalled the barrel-tramped ground around the tree and the fireplace of rocks and ashes and the wood chips from my bed, resolving to make my yard clean. So I made rabbit soup in a tin can that I had found in the bottom of the gorge. I seasoned it with wild garlic and jack-in-the-pulpit roots. Now, jack-in-the-pulpit have 3 big leaf stalks that are easily recognizable by the curly striped awning above the stiff, serious preacher named Jack. The jack-in-the-pulpit root tastes and kind of looks like a potato. It should never be eaten raw. The fire I made was only of the driest of wood, and I made it right at the water's edge. I didn't want a particularly smoky fire this evening. After supper, I made a bed and stretched out with Frightful beside me. Apparently, the more you stroke and handle a falcon, the easier they are to train. I had all sorts of plans for the hoods and the dresses. Those are the straps on a falcon. And soon, I forgot all about the man. And this is one of the little sketches. You can kind of see there's Sam and Frightful right there sleeping under his little makeshift tent. I stretched out on the boughs, and I listened to the wood peewees calling their haunting good nights, and I fell sound asleep. And that's actually the end of our chapter. It's a pretty short chapter today. So I'll come back and read you another one tomorrow. Have a nice rest of your weekend.